The 2018 Atlantic hurricane season is fast approaching, and by now, you should be preparing. Like last year, it's predicted to be a very busy season with more than 50 named storms. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show, but first, fresh vegetables grown here in the garden at Wild Thyme. You have a choice of eating it, drinking it, or both. Hello, I'm Carla Palmer, and this is Agriculture Now. Wild Thyme at number 33 East Bay Street is one of the newer restaurants here in New Providence. In fact, this year, 2018, co-owner and chef Devin McPhee celebrated its first anniversary.
Wild Thyme has turned out to be something special. It's everything I envisioned and a little bit more. It's an old Bahamian home, and I saw the opportunity to bring back that old Bahamian fine dining in a relaxed atmosphere. You know, patrons have an option to sit on the patio where you get that old Bahamian feel, the breeze, or you can sit inside where it's more upscale. You know, there's options, we provide options. I put together a seasonal menu to work together with local farmers and fishermen, and it works, you know. It's eclectic Bahamian.
As for the name?
The name Wild Thyme, it wasn't actually my first choice. But I was just casually just sitting down on a couch, and I was like, we wanted to be Bahamian, and what is a Bahamian herb that everybody uses? And thyme is the first thing. And I didn't even know that we had wild thyme going, and it worked. You know, it was catchy, easy to remember, and it's Bahamian thyme. You know, we all cook with thyme, so it came together quite nicely.
With location being everything in business, Chef McPhee feels he's found the ideal property, which he highlights holds its own unique history. Wild Thyme was transformed from a house that was part of a plantation during the slave era.
The house is about 200 years old. It was owned by a Bahamian, Johnson family name, and it's been passed down for quite a number of years. And it was just recently restored, I think maybe 2 years ago, and we just wanted to bring back we just wanted to make it look special. So the colors are loud, you know, it stands out, you know, the tourists love it, and it's a restaurant where you feel like you're dining in the Bahamas. You don't feel like you're in New York somewhere in one of the hotels, and that's what we was going for. The menu is diverse enough, you know, we have a lot of seafood options, running and serving a lot of tourists. From my past experiences, a lot of them say there's not a lot of seafood on Bahamian menus, or everything is fried. You know, we have a great mix, gourmet Bahamian, high end. A lot of patrons are into organic food items, and we try to have that nice balance between healthy food options and the island favorites. You know.
As for many of the vegetables and seasonings, Chef McPhee grows his own. On property, right outside the kitchen, is his courtside garden, where he picks fresh herbs and vegetables daily.
Well, I kind of tailored the menu to be seasonal. So whatever fresh produce is in season at the time, we try to utilize. Because the menu is seasonal, and we don't order in bulk, so we try to keep food as fresh as possible. And it works. We just partnered with a local farmer about 3 months ago, and all of our products has been exceptional. What she does is she packages them in small quantities so they last longer. Packaging as well is top class, just like what you get if you were bringing in from the US. And because everything is in small quantities, it stays fresh longer. We have a fisherman that comes in 3 times a week with fresh fish. Our microgreens, our kale, our baby spinach, and organic mixed greens, they come in about 3 times a week also.
Okay, first I'm gonna just put some ice in my shaker. We're going to start off, this is actually Aperol. It's a very fine liqueur. It has a nice bittersweet kind of a flavor. Very nice.
In addition to the usual plated salads, fruits and vegetables grown here at Wild Thyme are also used to make drinks. Cheers. And that's good. At Wild Thyme, 13 signature drinks are offered up by Chef McPhee and his 2 bartenders, who share the same first name, Kareem.
But with the signature drink menu, cocktail menu, we didn't want to just be about the food. Drinks are just as important as the food element of dining experience. And I spent a lot of time traveling all over the world. Spent some time in the south of France, in Nice and Saint-Tropez and Villefranche, and then also in Hong Kong. And I saw that this was a trending menu item in a lot of boutique restaurants. So when opening Wild Thyme, I kind of put my own thing together and tried to give it a Bahamian charm. It makes people feel good to know that you can get organic herbs out of a garden at a restaurant. It's a big thing in the US and perhaps all over the world. I saw it in Paris and I thought it was fun, and I just wanted to bring it here.
With a staff complement of 23 persons, Chef McPhee acknowledges that he would not be experiencing the success he now enjoys.
Training is important, exposure is important. Just sometimes I take the staff out just spontaneously to different restaurants, let them see what is required, because going into another environment helps you to realize what you're doing wrong and also what you're doing right. It's not negative all the time, and I think that helps a lot.
When agriculture now continues,
preparedness is the key. We live in that hurricane-prone zone.
the 2018 Atlantic hurricane season begins June 1st and runs through November 30th each year. And so, the season is upon us. Everyone should have prepared by now. The 2017 hurricane season will reportedly go down in history as amongst the worst 10 on record. There were 17 named storms, 10 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes. While 3 hurricanes, Irma, Harvey, and Maria, made landfall in various countries within the Caribbean last year, the Bahamas only experienced the full effects of Irma, a Category 5 storm. Its eye passed directly over Ragged Island, devastating that island community. While this hurricane season is anticipated to not be as bad and brutal as 2017, it's still expected to be extremely active.
Well, Colin, with regards to the predictions, we generally look at the Colorado State prediction, and they are out, at least the early predictions for Colorado State. It's looking at an above average season with some 14 named storms. Out of those 14, they anticipate 7 of those reaching hurricane strength, and out of the 7, 3 could become a major hurricane. That's a Category 3 or greater.
For the first time, however, since recording observational data on hurricanes for almost 30 years, local meteorologists intend to incorporate the hurricane predictions of an international colleague.
This year we're throwing into the mix another set of predictions that is done by Professor David Dilley. and he's from a private company in the United States who have been doing hurricane predictions now for quite a while, and we intend to incorporate his predictions this year. It seems as though he had some good success over the years, so we will employ it this year and see how successful that is, and then moving forward we would somehow marry the two. Professor Dilly is predicting an above average season as well. He's looking at some 16 named storms as opposed to the 14 predicted by Colorado State. Out of that 16, 8 he anticipates will reach hurricane intensity. So they are somewhat in agreement there with Colorado looking at 7. And in terms of major hurricanes, Dilly is looking at 4, while Colorado State is looking at 3. So again, the prediction seems to be pretty much in agreement.
Historical data by the National Weather Service Climate Prediction Center reveals that the majority of storms occur during the peak of the hurricane season between August and October.
There are a number of factors too that dictates this above average prediction for both Colorado State and Professor Dilly. And those factors remain: one, the sea surface temperatures continue to run warmer than normal throughout the Atlantic, as well as the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico. In addition to the sea surface temperatures, which are very, very critical in terms of the development of tropical cyclone, the El Nino is going to be, or it is predicted to be, in a somewhat weak state throughout the hurricane season. The numbers are what they are, but it takes only one major storm to impact or destroy a community. And a classical example of that was just last year, where we had an above average season. We had some 17 named storms. We had 10 hurricanes last year, and out of those 10 there were 4 major hurricanes, but there was only one that passed through the Bahamas, and we will all remember Irma, a Category 5 hurricane which devastated the island of Ragged Island, and they still have not yet recovered from that.
So once again, residents can prepare for all that a hurricane brings with it weather-wise: whipping winds, torrential rain, power outages, and flooding.
When we talk about hurricanes, the main thing about hurricanes are what? Wind and rain, storm surge. And the 3 of these components are devastating to any farming communities. As you know, in the Bahamas, most of our communities are coastal communities in the family violence. So residents live along the coast, and their farmland is not very far behind these residences. And as a result, any hurricane that would impact any of these farming islands certainly will have a devastating effect.
When we come back, we'll take a look at the impact of hurricanes on the farming community.
The one before, that's what really did some damage, but the last one did a lot of damage with it. Yeah, the last one did a lot of damage on the lime trees.
As many as 16 named storms are being predicted this 2018 hurricane season. Flooding is a major problem in many areas here in New Providence and throughout the country, as the Bahamas is principally low-lying. One entity that is particularly taking stock is the farming community.
So far, we've had an early start to the rainy season, which is good for the farmers. Too much rain is not a good thing, but certainly we've had this early start, which is very, very good. And hopefully, in the absence of a tropical cyclone, I think the farming community can have a bountiful season.
Well, last hurricane season, I thought I was ready, but actually wasn't nowhere near ready. for what really came. Okay, when Matthew came, it was a disaster. In fact, all of this tin behind me here was rolled back like a can of sardines. Okay, all of my goat pens was destroyed, all of my pig pens, all the roof, everything came off. I lost about 36 goats to Matthew. I lost about 24 sheep and 44 pigs, just to Hurricane Matthew alone. And I thought I was prepared. So right now, because of Hurricane Matthew and the lack of assistance for hurricane relief from any entity, including the government and the Ministry of Agriculture, the farmers are in a devastating situation right now for this oncoming hurricane season.
All year long, farmers throughout the country expend time and energy tilling and plowing the soil, planting crops and tending to their livestock. With so much invested, they are especially concerned during the hurricane season, as flooding could instantly compromise their harvest.
When it rains, all the water comes from down to the hill, up top of the hill, down to the bottom here, and this flood. During Hurricane Matthew, I've lost 300 chickens, baby chickens alone, okay? And 200 baby ducks just to the flooding. That's besides the ones that were blown away. I'm just talking about the babies, the young chicks and the young ducklings. So right now, this oncoming season, when the flooding starts again, I can't have my animals here. I have to take them elsewhere.
Well, the last hurricane, what I did, I cut all the leaves back on the trees, all of the banana trees, make sure that the wind don't catch the trees, because as long as the wind hook up in the leaves, the trees going to all fall over. So I cut everything down, cut all the leaves off, and just leave the bare trunk.
Where did you learn that?
Well, you know, we learned that from my father, Long Island, growing up. That's what we used to do when a day or two before the hurricane hit, we cut all the leaves off the trees, cut back all of the big trees.
It was a lesson to be learned, though. This after so many times of losing so many trees?
Trees, yeah, well, you had to come with that because you were losing too much. So we had to cut back in order to save.
So it was basically started as an experiment then?
Right.
Okay. So how many trees would you say you have, and how soon before, because this looks like a lot of trees, and how soon before you would start, because there's only about a week left before hurricane season.
It's like 110 stock in here, but I would not cut back on these unless the hurricane on us about 2 days or 3 days away, because it could shift and then you already cut the leaves off. But it would only take about 6 weeks after you cut the leaves and the hurricane would pass for the bananas to catch themselves. Bananas doesn't take long to catch themselves after the hurricane hit. They are not like the big pear trees, the mango trees, and the apple trees, and the lime trees. They can tumble over, and in a 6 weeks time, you're back in shape again. It wasn't too bad, not the last one, the one before. That's what really did some damage, but the last one did a lot of damage with it. Yeah. The last one did a lot of damage on the lime trees. The experience that I had, I planted my lime trees like 12 feet apart. 12 feet apart in the hurricane, depends on where the wind comes from. One go against the next, one hold the other one up. But if they're like 15, 16 feet away, there's nothing to hold them up, so they out of the ground. If you put them like 20 feet apart, there's nothing to hold one another, just like holding hands. You hold hands, everything just stand right up.
The rainfall amounts will vary from hurricane to hurricane for a number of reasons. The speed of the hurricane or the forward movement of the hurricane is very, very critical when it comes to flooding rains. The faster the system moves, the less chance of flooding. But as the system slow, flooding becomes a major part of the storm system.
During this period, particularly, it should have been started a little while back. The farmers need to take stock of their cattle and whatever they have on their farms, and they need to identify them They also need to check their surroundings or the enclosures to make sure that there's, if in the event of a disaster, that quickly doors can be open or barns can be open and animals can be set free. Unfortunately, with being a small island with tide surges and stuff, you would have to just play it by ear. But in the event that once is known that a surge is coming, I think farmers should just be proactive in making sure that their animals are able to be free to find higher ground. And in the last hurricane, there was issues where, it happened so fast, and disasters, that's the thing about it. You can't predict in disasters, it happens so fast. But there were certain situations where farmers did not have the time or had access to go down and make sure that their farms were open, and so there was a loss of life. But we're hoping though that farmers have learned from that, had a big lesson learned from that, and hopefully that they have now made sure that their areas are secured. Their areas are also able to be quickly dismantled in the event for animals to get out. Animals, I think, should be tagged right now or ID'd in some way, so that at the end of a storm, you'll be able to know your property.
Sustainability in agriculture is dependent on farmers taking the necessary precautions, as loss of produce in significant quantities means a limited supply of food on the local market. Lack of precaution would also mean a further setback to one of the government's primary goals of having farmers grow enough produce to feed ourselves and to export.
Preparedness is the key. We live in that hurricane-prone zone, which means that from time to time these systems are going to impact us, and we do not want to wait until we're looking down the gun in order to prepare ourselves. And there are simple things, and all of these things seem to be very simple, but at the end of the day, they prove to be very, very effective in maintaining our safety during hurricane protection, hurricane passages.
Once again, I'm Carla Palmer. Until next time, let's sow seeds and reap abundantly.